Have either of you ever achieved?
No.
Achieved?
I did.
You what?
Years ago, absolutely.
How
Of course.
much? Subscribe to the podcast, KFC Radio on YouTube.
Bang.
That's not a. Is that your wallet? Your phone?
Yeah, looks like a Bible.
It does look like a Bible.
When you're on a plane, people
May I?
don't
Can I
fuck
just
with you.
get the weight of that? Holy! You carry this around in your jacket pocket or
Yeah,
your pants
or in my
pocket? Feel
pants
this thing.
pocket.
That's a workout.
That's a nice wallet. Yeah.
Is it just filled with
That's
cash?
a wallet, man, with
Is this
money.
the caliber of conversation we're gonna have
Yes,
on the show? Hey, your
honestly,
wallet, bro.
honestly, it might be. It honestly
Fair
might
enough,
be. You
fair
came here
enough.
for that. I've never seen a wallet that heavy in my goddamn life.
I had 10 more minutes on that.
I was gonna say I was gonna do 10 on that, but I guess we'll move on. So you got a movie out. You want to talk about that? I guess.
Totally. Happy to do that.
What makes you do something like, what is it, 20 whatever years after the fact? I mean, I know there's Clerks II, but then
A sequel?
Yeah.
Mortgage?
Yeah.
No, you can't get rich making a fucking Clerks movie, I assure you. I've tried for many years.
Well, the return on investment's pretty good, right? I mean,
return on investment,
Clerks
let's
I at
see,
least.
career-wise is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
But money-wise, like, we made that movie for 27 grand, 27,575, and it was bought for 227,000.
it made $4 million, but that's not you.
You don't get any of that fucking money. Any money I made off Clerks, I spent a long time ago because it was like 227K.
That's the movie
means
studio
you pay
crazy?
the movie back. The movie was put on credit cards, so you pay that back. Then you pay some people who are in the cast because we never did. They just did it for free.
Wow.
Then I bought a Dodge Neon.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Fucking
dude.
such
You
a
getting the bitches, man.
pussy car right there. Holy shit. 13 grand. And then I was left with, I think it was 21 grand at the end of the day for the flick. And that went, within a year or something like that. So a lot of people are like, oh my God, you must have that Clerks money. I'm
Yeah,
like,
no,
"What
no, bro.
fucking Clerks money?"
Yeah.
Jeff Anderson
Well, I
said
bet
it best when we were trying to put the movie together 10 years ago. He didn't want to do it because he was just like, we're not getting paid. And I'm like, well, I mean, we're doing it for the love. He's like, how come we got to do it for the love and everybody else fucking makes money off this Clerks shit? He was right.
Amen, brother.
He's absolutely right.
I can relate on that one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I feel that.
But I'm still the same. Where I'll still do it. I'm not even doing it for love anymore. I'm doing it to avoid the shame.
Exactly.
I'm doing it so someone else doesn't yell at me. Like, all right, I'll do it for free.
Yes. And then you just do it because you want to. Like, at the end of the day, these are my characters, and they gave me everything. Like Dante and Randall on their backs, which sounds way dirtier than I meant it. I built my entire fucking career. And so they mean something to me. And every time I kind of play with those toys, I tend to do a better version of whatever it is that I do. Everyone
Really?
seems to go for it.
Those
Yeah,
kind of guys
yeah.
like take you to another level.
I guess. I mean, I would like to think I put my all into everything, but for whatever reason, because it's them and because they're so legacy and they've been around for 30 years, Clerks is on the Library of Congress's National Film fucking
Yeah,
registry. So
I saw
there's
that.
some
That's
weight
fucking
to it.
wild, yeah.
So when you play with those toys, I tend to put a little bit more into it, I guess.
It's funny.
Emotionally.
I was thinking about that the other day, just randomly about music, TV, whatever. That like sometimes you put out a fucking hit, number one song, of all time.
I don't know
then-
anything about that.
No, or
tell
a
me
movie
about
or a
these
TV
hits.
show or whatever. And then the next album has like, oh, those were good songs, but it's like, how come you can't replicate that? Sometimes is it luck? Is it the people around you? Like what?
I think when you're new, it's very easy to like something that's new and fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And that in our culture now more than even when I was a kid, the fucking new is cultish. It's just like as something happens, everyone has it experientially because we all live online now.
Yeah.
And then everyone wants something else.
Yeah.
So I feel like
It moves
back in
fast,
the day,
too.
it moves very fast. Back in the day, a career like mine had time to like take root, grow, and nurture. I feel bad for anybody trying to start now and
You
do
got
something
succeed
like
right
I
away,
did.
like Blockbuster or Money
Yeah,
or whatever.
and also
maybe.
it probably helps to be picked up by Netflix or something for exposure, but very few people. There's a kid who does the horror movies, Ty West. Mm-hmm. He's got his own thing going on that whenever I look at his flicks, I'm like, oh, he's doing to me. Like, here's everybody doing their thing, and then we just kind of do our thing over here and figure out how to exist in a business that doesn't really give a fuck about us.
Right.
For example, we've been trying to make Mallrats 2. It's called Twilight of the Mallrats for the better part of 5 years now. That was supposed to happen before Clerks 3.
Yeah.
It was written. Clerks 3 wasn't even written. And Liz Destro, who's one of our producers, is like, Kevin, I bet you've been talking about doing Clerks 3. I said, yeah. She goes, if you fucking write that now, I can get that movie made before we get Mallrats made. I was like, why? She's like, because she gave the script to Universal. Number one, they were like, we own Mallrats? And she was like, yeah, we can't go anywhere without you guys. And so they read the script and they were like, it's Universal. So they were like, this is neither Fast nor Furious. Why the fuck would we make this?
Hang on a second. I stand with
You're
you.
the wrong guy. You're gonna start trashing that.
No, I'm not
We'll go back to the wallet.
Oh shit! Here we go. 2 hours on the wait. No, I'm not trashing the Fast and the Furious. It's just that's what they make.
Yeah.
They don't make fucking Clerks. They're not
Right.
like, let's make a sequel to a 25, 27-year-old fucking movie and see where everyone is and how old they look. That's not the business Universal's in. That's not how they sell
I don't know if
popcorn.
anybody's in the business of that.
With the Fast and Furious stuff. Old Vin's getting up there.
It's true. They
Vin
got their
hasn't taken his
special
shirt off
effects,
in 2
man,
movies.
where they kind of smooth them out and whatnot. They'll never do that for Mallrats pictures. Poor Jason Lee's gonna have to look his age if he ever make it. So yeah, it's,
Dude, that's gotta get made. I mean, as a
hopefully,
90s
but
kid, like,
honestly,
that's gotta
think
get
about it. It doesn't.
No, you're right. You're
Like,
right.
there's so
They're
much
just-
shit
but
that
they're-
gets made. I want it to get made, and that's the difference between like the stuff I do and the stuff that most of the studios do. They do it because it's got to get made because they're like, oh, this will make money.
Yeah.
I do it because I'm like, I just want to see it. I just
Yeah,
wanna see it.
there
And
will
I
be
have to
dozens
figure
of
out-
us angry if that does not
That's
get
true.
made.
12 people would be so fucking pissed if it don't happen. But it's, we'll see if it does. Like, stranger things have happened. The fact that Jay and Silent Bob reboot happened 3 years ago. Clerks III happened just this year. Like, I'm on a roll. If it could happen, it could happen. Now, a lot of people are like, why the fuck do you want that to happen? Why don't you make original shit? And I'm like, well, I did make original shit. I made Tusk, and everyone was like, go back to your old shit. So, here I am
Also,
playing my
when
old
it's
shit.
like it's not, first of all, it's not like Mallrats 10.
Right.
It's like that was my original.
Although,
creation,
fuck, if
and-
I could get there.
let's go.
Oh, shit, bro.
I mean, those are still
Barstool
like your.
Sports
Those,
presents Mallrats 10.
listen, if I get some money, how much does it cost to make Mallrats 2?
I mean,
Come on,
honestly,
Rats.
let's see, we
75.
made Clerks 3 for what? 7 million?
Okay.
I think we're looking at Mallrats for 6. You guys can pull that. I walked
Make
in
it
this
happen.
building. I remember when you
happen.
guys started, and I walked in now, man. You guys are
Yeah.
fucking
No,
rich.
yeah.
No more playing it like we're the guys next door. Fucking magnates here. All of them, even the people at the office desk counting money. And shit. Fucking, it's an incredible industry.
As you were talking about trying to get movies made, it reminded me, I think it was Melissa McCarthy was recently on a Hollywood Reporter Roundtable or something like that. And she was talking about how she loved the Hollywood of old because at least you had suits who would take a chance on you. Now it's all like you don't even have a suit you can argue with anymore and be like, kind of make them see your vision.
With all due respect to Melissa McCarthy, doesn't she have a fucking output deal at Netflix where she gets to make like literally any movie she wants with her husband? What is she complaining about? Why is the old way better than the new way for her?
Whatever
It's
the
actually-
Melissa McCarthy way is.
I want that.
Let's
I
go with
want
that.
those first world problems where she's like, oh, the old way was they used to make movies. Now I just make fucking 10 movies a year. I consider her fucking blessed. The old way and the new way, honestly, I disagree. Back in the day, I've been doing this nearly 30 years. All the studio execs I dealt with back in the day, early in my career, not creative people at all, kind of pencil pushers, money people. And they couldn't give you a creative note to save your life. They couldn't give you a note that would actually improve. They would just give you a note that was very generic and kind of like, well, that just makes it like every other movie. The staff now, like I work with the folks at Netflix, E1, and I worked at Disney at one point. The creative execs they bring in are former writers. Or writers themselves. So you're dealing with fellow creatives. So it's not somebody going like, well, just make it like, it's got too many notes. You got somebody who's like, it'd be cool. This thing you do here. What if you added this as
But
well?
that's good. You like that?
Fucking phenomenal. That's the quickest point, the quickest distance between 2 points in order to satisfy a studio. If you're doing a job for a studio, it's all about somebody finally
have
saying
to
yes
get
and
done.
making
Yeah,
it. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
if
Yeah.
your exec is going, oh my God, do this, you do this, and they're like, oh my God, that's perfect, and you're one step closer to the
Yeah.
fucking green light. That's
Right.
fantastic. In my own work, I don't take notes. Like, I
Right.
do
I was
whatever
gonna
I
say
want.
that would. I mean, the work that we've done here is
Right.
just blogging and podcasting. It's all off the cuff. It's not like a creation.
It is.
I mean, it is,
creation.
but there's no notes process. And I think and I've done it for too long that way, that like if someone gave me notes,
You must be
I
fucking
would be
spoiled.
like, fuck
Absolutely,
you, dude.
absolutely.
Like the simplest thing. I think you should change like that. No, I shouldn't. Fuck you.
The podcast generation, which I'm happily part of, I first started doing Smodcast in 2007. So in the beginning, when it was like Leo Laporte doing This Week in Tech, Adam Curry with the very first podcast.
Yeah,
and
you
me.
we
were
were
early.
OG, man.
We were so fucking
07
early.
is like
And I jumped into it for the exact reason that you're talking about. no notes.
Yeah.
There was nobody who was going to be like, well, you can't.
Right.
It was the sky
Especially
was the
back
fucking
then.
limit.
Now there's some rules, but you know.
Well, I mean, I guess there's rules if you got like advertising and
Yeah,
shit. But
yeah,
back
yeah,
then, I mean, I ain't taking credit for it, but like, I was early in
You
the
couldn't take
advertising
credit
game.
for it.
In the
07
I remember.
is-
I remember like we did Smodcast for about a year. Me and Scott Mosier, and put it up, and people download and shit. And I was like, it's free, man. I love this podcast. It's free. And then one day my accountant was like, we have a server bill, and it's like very high, and it keeps going up every month. What is this? And then I learned the more people download it,
Yeah.
it's free for everyone else except the guy fucking hosting the podcast.
Ain't that a bitch?
What was the server bill like?
$25.75.
Took all my clerks' money. It was high enough for my accountant to be like, "What is this fucking charge?" And
Yeah.
it was, a charge she'd never seen before. So she's
Right.
like, "Server, what is?"
Do you remember
this?
who you were working with at that point?
Christ, I have no
Yeah,
idea,
that's a
man.
long
And
time
it was so fucking early. They probably don't even exist anymore at this point. So I had to figure out, how do we do this and not have to pay for it out of pocket? And it was so fucking primitive because, like, me and Scott Mosier were going like, well, remember that movie quiz show, like where they had the game show 21? 21 was sponsored by Geritol. Like, what if we could get one sponsor to sponsor the show? And so I'd had a letter that this company had sent to me after Zach and Miri Make a Porno. Like, you mentioned our product in the movie. We were so fucking flattered. If you ever want to make something with us, let us know. Love, Fleshlight. And so, I was like, the male masturbatory device. They could be our Geritol. So we reached out to them. We're like, do you guys want to pay for our server costs and pay for us to make some cartoons and shit? And we will brand our show as sponsored by Fleshlight. We're on tour, so we'll give out
Hell
fleshlights and shit.
Everybody wins.
Everybody fucking wins. So they were like, absolutely. So they became our sponsor. And this was at a time when like sponsorship.
It's not a thing with podcasts, right?
And this is, again, I ain't bragging and shit, but dropping names. But Joe Rogan called me up after 6 months going like, what's the game with Fleshlight?
Wow.
He was like, because I got a podcast and fucking like the bills. And I was like, well, Fleshlight, I do ads for them and they fucking pay for all my server costs. And then he got tight with the Fleshlight guys.
$100 million later.
And he
Holy
fucking sold.
shit.
But for a while, until Joe, we sold so many fucking male masturbatory devices. Everyone who listened to our show is kind of like the constituency was male. And so it was like, finally, fucking women have had vibrators forever. Now we have a fucking toy.
You were
Everyone
early to
bought them
that
and shit.
too. 07 podcasting and 07 Fleshlight. Yeah. Pretty early. Nowadays, guys can stick their dicks in things. In 07, you were a pervert.
It was a brand new thing where you were like, what? We have a thing and
Yeah,
shit? And we
yeah.
spread the word. And so we
That's
learned
amazing.
how to like do
You're the godfather of
advertising
this
and
shit, man.
A little bit. I feel like
I think Bert was saying that like he goes on Rogan now, and Rogan just has like when you like went to the gym in like middle school, like when you went to the courts and there's just this cage full of random balls.
Yeah.
I think Rogan just has that full of flashlights now. just like
Grab a Randy.
Bert's like, every time I go in, I just take a new one home.
one fucking pump per. Throws the rest out and throws it away.
It's like when you hear Mariah Carey never wears the same shirt twice. One pump, one pump, one pump. We had a sponsor. We started this. Barstool was growing, but then we started the podcast within it. So, and we were.
What is the order? So what started first?
Barstool Sports started as a free handout at like the Boston subway,
Right.
And then it became a blog, and then it became big in Boston, and then he wanted to expand into other cities, so we kind of had like a satellite model. So there was Barstool Boston that wrote about all the Boston teams and Boston happenings, and then we went to New York, and then we went to Philly, and then we had a college one, and a Maryland one, and a Chicago one, and then when we got big enough, we brought it all under this roof.
So
I started
sports
was the
anchor.
Loosely,
very
very
loosely.
loosely.
It's more the generic idea was when you're sitting on a bar stool next to your buddy at the bar,
Right.
watching the game. It's all the stuff you talk about. So it's chicks and viral videos and what's going on at work and all that
Makes
shit.
sense,
And then
makes sense.
we have gone more comedy route. Some guys have gone more sports route. It's just
And
lifestyle.
when did you
now.
guys start? Lifestyle is true. It's very true.
Yeah, I started in 09
With the podcast?
with the blog,
Right.
and then 2012 was the podcast.
So you guys have been doing this podcast since 2012?
Yes.
10 years.
Yeah. So
Did
and
you
we
do like your
we
10-year
usually-
anniversary show and
Yeah,
all that shit?
yeah.
And you do the live aspect as
Yeah,
well? I
yeah.
mean, during pandemic, obviously not.
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
What is it like? So you guys started in a room by yourselves?
We
started-
started. We did Skype and then Google Hangouts. So we were doing the Zoom thing before that because he was in Boston, I was in New
Is that
York.
right? So even before pandemic, in order to make it work.
So the original thing was like a 3-4 boxes remote, and then we just put that on YouTube. And then when we all moved to New York and we got in the room for the first time and started doing it that way.
Now, how long you been doing that?
Is 6 years?
I would say 6 or 7.
When was the first time you put it up on its feet on stage in front of a live audience?
17.
How thrilling was it?
Not
at all.
It was
terrifying.
It was nervous. I was nervous.
I guess
Are you
thrilling
guys
counts.
not-
I'm not I'm still to this day when we do live shows, I get very nervous. I
Is
sweat
that
a
right?
lot, and and it's fine every time, and people love it.
Totally,
and I
but
just can't.
between this room and that room, you prefer this room.
You could tell me there's a billion people on the other side of this mic.
don't give a fuck.
Don't care. 200
What do you think
people in a
it is?
room.
What do you think it is? Because the live reaction?
Yes, I always say
Because
that.
then
Like,
you have to change the game. Like, you want to talk about no notes. When you did a home show, like, consider this the home show. When you did a home show, no notes whatsoever.
Right.
When you did a live
get
show,
feedback, brother.
there's instant
Yes.
notes, and you're
And
like,
you know.
we got to change direction. We
For
got to do
sure.
this. So you're constantly moving.
Our fans have told us before, we want to just see this show live.
Right.
And so we try to do that. But there are times where I like to think we're always entertaining, but we're
Right.
not laugh out loud funny every 2 seconds,
Yes.
every
And
20
it makes
seconds.
you nervous
and
in a
when
live
when someone
room.
pays money and they
Yes.
go to a club and it's their night, they get a babysitter, they do, whatever. And then me and John talk about the wallet for 10 minutes. It's like,
that
bro.
saved you from yourself. An old pro came in and was like, we're not doing wallet material.
Come on, young buck.
I have notes.
Yeah. But then we've tried to do. I guess the thing is we've tried to do little gimmicks and shit that just weren't funny. If they were funny, it would have been fine. But
So
we've
you
done
tried to
little
add
things-
shit for the live
and-
show
and
that
we
had
get-
nothing to do with the regular show, and people were like, what are you doing?
Yes,
Yeah.
we always go
It's
to a
an
bar
honest audience.
afterwards and meet people, and they're like, "It was cool, but like, that was a little weird. Like, why don't you just do your show?" And it's like, well, because our show sometimes isn't. But
They don't
You know,
care.
it is a weird.
They'll live in the silence. That's the thing that
that
we
is the
need to
thing. I
understand as
can't-
podcasters in a live format is like they're used to moments where we're being interesting or perhaps witty, but not funny.
Right.
They don't fucking laugh
And
out loud at
is-
everything.
That is hard for me to, especially.
That's
we're
something
on-
the performer has to learn to be
Yeah.
comfortable in because they are comfortable in it. The
Right,
audience
they're
ain't
good.
sitting
They're
there being
chilling.
like, if I don't laugh every minute, fuck you, I want my money
Right,
back.
they're fine.
They want the show, and the show to them is sometimes I laugh, and sometimes I'm just sitting there listening.
Or sometimes I'm like these idiots or whatever.
and
but
more
we're on
importantly,
stage
they're
at-
literally getting to look at you. do it.
and I think they just like to meet us afterwards. To be
Absolutely,
honest,
that's a big
But
part
when
of it.
I see that we're on stage at the Wilbur and last week was fucking Chris Rock, I'm like, why are we even here?
I love
I
the
can't
fucking
even
Wilbur.
believe, know,
Yes.
like it's like
But that's got to be, and Wilbur's Boston.
yeah.
So that's got to be huge.
And
for
that so
fucking
so
your
the,
brand there.
we did a couple shows at Caroline's, 300 people,
Yeah.
and that was good. But like 2 or 3 shows into our career, we sold out the Wilbur.
That's big.
And I was like,
For those that don't
not
know,
prepared
it's,
for this.
That's minimum like 1,000 seats.
and that also to think about like comics and people who have been honing their craft for a decade who haven't done the Wilbur, and these idiots get. So I have a lot of issues.
This
with
is.
all
I
that.
used to also have self-esteem issues about like, do I deserve this? Am I a
Mm-hmm.
poser? What the fuck? And then somebody once said, because I used to do theaters only, so like big theaters and shit. And I always wanted to do comedy clubs, but I didn't want to go to comedy clubs because I respect comedy so much. I felt like, yes, I get up and I'd be funny, but I'm not strictly a comic. I didn't develop,
Really?
a strong 5. A strong 10.
Right,
I
right,
backdoored, by the way, the movies, like
Sure.
which sounds sexier than I meant it. But you make a movie, you get up and have to talk about it afterwards. I just tried to be funny at the same time. So
And wait, sorry, these are like you're talking to the audience about your film, like a
so
Q&A.
in a Q-
or like
after film festivals, after the movie plays, they push the filmmaker out there, and you stand there and act erudite about film. And I never felt comfortable doing that. I'd made one movie, so instead I was like, let me tell you how we got the cat to shit on cue. So that leads to more like anecdotal storytelling and stuff like that. So I'm used to kind of being pushed out there and singing for my supper or speaking up for the movie. And over a course of doing that 10 years, that became my secondary job.
Sure.
Like I make movies more often than not. I make more money talking about making
Movie than
movies
making movies,
than
right.
making movies and stuff. So over the time of doing that, you start doing shows like I sold out Carnegie Hall and shit like that. I used to do theaters just in big cities, but I never went near comedy clubs because I was like,
You realize that's backwards, right?
very much.
You
I still love
dickhead.
It was
Carnegie Hall was a drop.
it was
I'll do Carnegie, but I won't do Caroline's.
do
I'll do
Helium.
Gotham.
I won't do Helium Comedy Club.
I'll do the Chuckle Hut.
For me, I felt like that's where the real pros went. And I felt like if I got up on one of those stages, they would smell the inauthenticity. But what I found out was, and I forget which comic told me, but he's like, because I was like, I don't belong up here. I ain't a comic. And he goes, did you put all those asses in the seats? Is that your audience? He goes,
It's just a room.
That's all
It's
it
a room
is.
that
You
you
have
could
to
bring-
take off the thing of your head,
Yeah.
which is like, oh my God, it's a room where legends play. And it's like,
Just
it's
four
just
walls
a
and a
room.
stage.
Exactly.
But I say that, but
It's harder when you're
harder to
actually
actually
there.
do it. But
I have a question that's going to go a bit awry here. You said how do you
If it's
get
about the wallet, I'm gonna fucking shut it
it's,
down.
It's different. It's about the cat shitting on cue.
Done.
Okay. Now it's actually not so much about the cat.
Right.
I was watching a movie recently and they had a baby crying.
Yeah.
How do they make the baby cry on cue?
oh, they smack it.
yeah.
If
so you
there's a
hit it?
baby crying on camera, like hearing it is an audio cue.
Right,
You
right,
just drop
right.
that in. But if you're seeing
She
it,
was really I was seeing it and she was crying.
you're not allowed to be like, or anything like that. You can't poke the baby.
Both ear.
But babies in that environment generally are upset because it's like lights, activity, noise, and you have that going on with the kid anyway. That's why they have twins all the time.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
one will be acting up and the other might be sleepy or less fussy or something. So
You
in
gotta
my
get two of them to
experience-
torture.
You need two to traumatize for the rest of their lives. In my experience, it's that. It's luck of the draw because there must be a law, but nobody wants to be like,
Just
Cry, bitch.
Just a quiet,
like,
quiet
all right,
little
shoot,
pinch on the
shoot.
back of the arm.
Exactly.
I mean, this
And
was like a
that's just
toddler, and like,
parents
when I
that-
tell you this baby was crying,
Yeah.
this was a fit. Like it was.
And then some
crying.
director's like, let's do it again.
Yeah.
We made this movie Red State, and there was this one moment where Dave Klein, who's our DP, who now shoots like The Mandalorian and stuff. Dave has a daughter named Ivy, and she was at this point maybe 3 or something. And so Red State is like a cult movie. It takes place in this like cult congregation. And at one point, there's an intense scene where one of the characters is just like, the FBI is coming in, the feds, ATF's coming in. And she's like, you have to hide it in the attic. She's telling the other family members because like they may kill us all. And the actress's intensity was, as she's doing the lines, was so like Ivy didn't understand what was being said, but like how intense she was. And once she started talking, she's like, you need to get these babies upstairs in the attic. Ivy just started bawling. She's like, ah! She could feel it. She didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Right.
It was magic, man. I was like, keep rolling. This is fucking fantastic.
That is crazy. And that's just like, there are parents who want their babies to get into the game early.
In that
or like-
instance, it was the DP. So
Oh,
the
right. Okay. So
cinematographer, he was
just
like,
bring my kid on. Yeah, yeah.
And her mom was also in the movie, and she was just like off camera as well. So Ivy was like screaming and reaching for her mom, and her mom's like,
30 more seconds.
just a little more pain.
Wild, man. Wild. So wait, to go back to the podcast.
Yes.
So you did the one sponsor, and
Yeah.
that was enough to like pay the bills.
That was for a long time, I think. And then he didn't steal our sponsor, but
Joe came along, took so
Well, they were like, we pretty much maxed out with you.
got it.
Like we've
Everybody,
sold
all of the flashlights.
all your buddies.
Everybody's
have bought
fucking
a
them.
fuck
Yeah,
toy.
yeah. I always wondered that. We
He's
have
got
guys
new
who've been around
buddies.
for 10 years, and it's like, okay. I mean, we'll still keep
Isn't
talking
it
about
nuts?
it, but-
Like, and what always kills me is when they show me the sponsors that we have, and I'm like, they're back.
Yeah.
Like they're still.
Yeah.
Which indicates that people
We're
are
still buying.
still buying
Yeah.
that particular product. There's so
Right.
much so that they're like, oh, we'll keep doing as is.
Or
We've
some
had-
guy who works there likes your podcast and just want to keep spending.
Could
money
be, and he's like,
doing
"Look, I got a budget, just gotta go somewhere."
Yeah,
I hadn't
yeah.
thought about that. You just took
Yeah.
the bloom off the rose. I was like, "It must be special." But he's like,
that. Well,
"I
you're
got
special to that guy, and he's got money, a budget, so
That's
whatever,
true.
man.
That's true.
But then did it become like? Did you start to be like, all right, I see the matrix here, and like I'm gonna get this sponsor, and like is that?
I was
it
never
really
smart
became a
enough. I
money
wasn't.
maker?
Who's the guy behind all this? The
Dave Portnoy.
Yes, I wasn't smart like Dave, where he's like, "Oh, I could do a satellite and a satellite and a satellite."
Mm-hmm.
For me, the end game was live shows, because I was like, "We'll give the fucking podcast away for free, because then when we show up,
Sure.
they'll buy a ticket." And I literally thought I was the smartest man in the world. I was
Well,
like,
it-
"Oh
I
my
mean,
god, I cracked
there's
the
a model
code."
to that, yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
I mean, and it totally fucking works. Works well for us. But I never thought about.
Well, I think that's what every comic initially did, and then you started to realize that it works backwards too.
Yes.
The people come to your show, and then they're like, I want to listen to this guy every day.
Yes.
And I think that actually becomes more valuable because you can play to 300 or you can play to 300,000.
Agreed.
So it's wild how much of a
The Rogan model, as we say. That has
God
been
bless
wild,
him.
watching him like enter the game, ask for advice, podcast with him, and be like, "Let me give you some of my audience, Joe."
yeah. Well,
And now it's like, "Joe, can I come on, genuflect to the altar and take a little bit of your audience with me?"
well, I think about Brian Redband a lot. I mean, he was like, know, side by side, and not that he's doing all right, but he's not doing 100 million. So it's like,
Right.
holy shit.
What
But
was the story there?
I don't
Did they have
quite
a
know.
falling out,
I don't know. I can't speak on it, but you'd have to imagine there was some level of like. I think it was like Red Band always like did kind of like the technical side of things, and I don't know, but it would drive me fucking insane. I know that much.
This is the hot goss section of the show.
Yeah.
The hot goss.
So when you do Clerks 3, is it something like, like it's just second nature? You get the band back together and everybody, or is it like rusty and you gotta
No,
kinda
rusty
get-
at all.
no,
It was
you get right back
so
into it?
fucking lovely, especially because like we started shooting on my 51st birthday, and we got to shoot at Quick Stop. Like this is the first movie I made entirely in New Jersey since the first movie. So it was almost like going to Clerks fantasy camp, where me and the same people that I was working with 29 years fucking prior went to the same place, stood in the same exact spots, and in some cases said the exact same fucking things. So it was like this so meta vacation. And like periodically throughout the shoot, me, Brian, Jeff would look at each other and be like, this is so fucked up. And like it was fucked up for them because like in my head, I'm a stoner, so I designed it that way. I was like, I want the shoot to be like what I feel like every day of my life for everyone else. So they're going to walk in and be like, this is fucked up. Like time has met itself. Welcome to my everyday. Exactly. So it was such a good fucking time, man. And cathartic to say the least. And the only drawback was I realized like, fuck, I wish this was like Clerks 19. I wish I had just made more Clerks movies because I knew this was going to be the last one, and I was like, I love these characters so much, but everything has its place and everything has its ending, and it made me a little regretful that I
didn't milk that son of a bitch for all it's worth.
Absolutely,
blood from a stone.
It made me sad that we didn't have a TV show. TV fucking people have it great because you get to tell that story over and over and over and over. Movie, you tell it once,
right?
And
this
if you're
there's
lucky,
a finality to this. There can't be any TV after this.
I mean, look, as long as there's fucking breath in my lungs, there'll always be a Clerks something. But there's at the end of this movie, there's a kind of sense of closure that
got it.
Like I was talking about, joking about Clerks 4 and shit, and a bunch of people after. I'm on tour, right? The movie's playing everywhere this week on Fathom event screens at a theater near you. Participating theaters do Fathom screenings once a night from now till Sunday. But I have been on tour with the movie. We took a break this week, and then I go back out on Sunday with the Convenience Tour, where I take the movie out like a fucking band and do it like every night in front of 1,000, 1,500 people and shit like that. So afterwards, we do VIP pictures. People come back and shit. 5 people the other night were like, don't make Clerks 4.
Wow.
Like, this is
it's perfect.
That's what either that or they're like, stop it.
Word of the notes.
Come up with a new idea. But they were like, no. This
I
is
think
fucking
that actually is like
it was nice. It was a high compliment.
Yeah,
where I was
right.
All right. I feel you.
Particularly when it comes from someone who would no doubt go to Clerks 10.
And they,
bitterly and be like, I told them to stop at 3, but here we are.
We were just joking about in Clerks 1, like some of it is kind of dated in that sense, and we were thinking about the dude being upset that his girlfriend had blown 36 guys.
Which
36
now
girls.
would be
We, like
nothing.
We were saying,
Bro,
he said like that's freshman year.
I remember writing that scene, and how I came to the number was my girlfriend from high school, Kim Loggren, who I dated for like 12 years off and on and stuff, and I still know, and she married, I'm married, but like to other people, but we're very good friends.
Yeah.
So I could tell the story because everyone's going like, did you just say her fucking name? You're gonna say how many blowjobs you get? She was the basis for the 2 female characters in Clerks. She's both Veronica and Caitlin as well. So Kim when I wrote Clerks in 1992, Kim had been with 3 guys and given 10 blowjobs across her life. And that was very hard for me to deal with. That's about 9 too many. So
isn't that so funny? It really
so
is a
strange.
thing that's just like, I don't think of myself as like an insecure dude, but that bugs me, man.
That's
that
what
fucking bugs me.
literally what Chasing Amy's all about. Is like male
yeah.
sexual insecurity and shit, which
Right.
I used to suffer from after I made Chasing Amy not at all. So when I had that number in my head, I was like, all right, that she's normal.
Right.
Like,
so I gotta
like even though she has an edge to her, she's not the girl known for like just like, oh, she fucks everybody. She's kind of virginal. So I'm like, well, that number then must be scandalously low.
Yeah.
So we have to make it scandalously high, but fucking believable.
Right.
Not but fucking believable. But fucking believable.
Also fucking believable.
So I tripled it, and then I just added on a little bit more. And I was like, my God. And I
Imagine that.
And I remember
What a whore.
throughout all the 90s, people were like, oh, you've never met anybody who gets sucked 37 days, have you? And I was like, of course not.
bald one.
No, it's a fiction. And then I remember like
It's
years.
like Game of Thrones, like a dragon.
I remember like when there was like a porno at one point. Like I think one of the first pornos where somebody tried to have sex with as many people as
Yeah, they
possible.
did that in a day.
But the first time, but you got to remember, I'm old enough that I was there if that happened the first time,
Right.
And it was like a huge number, and I was like, oh my God, that's a Clerksian number. We've now entered fiction. But yes, I would imagine
Wow,
that's a
man.
quant number at this point.
Yeah, that's like, high
Well,
school.
Clerks was made at a time when like anal was like, oh my God,
Right.
that only happens in space, and now it seems to be like standard high school issue according to the fucking internet. Jeez. Thank God I'm not in high school now, man. Like, what a bar to live up to.
How old are your kids now?
She's 23. She got her own house.
Yeah.
She got
Wow.
She's got her own house.
Yeah.
I like that as a standard.
Yeah, she's out. She's fucking gone
got
now.
her own.
house.
She's
Yeah.
doing well.
I got like young kids, and I think about that a lot. I'm like, what the fuck is it gonna be like?
It's gonna be like, he's at age 9. He's gonna be like, Dad, I had my first fucking threesome. and he's like, Dad, it's normal.
Dad, be cool, man. We all do
Dad, it was so hot. I nutted 3 times. Dad, what's it like when you come? You're like, son, shut up.
I'll be like, son, tell me more. I got a podcast. I got to fill
I
out.
need content.
Be
Come
my
to the
guest.
live
Come
show.
We were talking about that recently, though, that like I think there is the theory that Gen Z is going the opposite
Yeah,
way.
they're actually
Are they spinning the pendulum
Because
back into
they're
a more
read an article
conservative?
about it, so it's got to be true.
I mean,
Yeah.
one person said it.
Yeah.
Look, it's possible because think about it. I mean, I don't want to sound like an old man, but there ain't no thrill anymore. If you could fucking
Yeah.
do everything,
Yeah.
there's no fucking thrill
Right,
whatsoever.
right.
So if you could
The
dial
thrill
it back
is-
a little bit,
Not fucking.
exactly, exactly.
Did you not fuck her, dude? I
Yeah,
totally
like,
didn't fuck her, man.
I edged. That's what it's all about now. Motherfuckers edge.
The
And I'm like,
generation of
wow.
edging.
Like when we were kids, nobody wanted to edge. We
No.
wanted to come, but now they're like, that's the edge. And the edge is the edge. I'm like, whatever, kids. Enjoy.
I
Keep your
can
fluids
actually
in your body.
I can see you being like, no, I don't fuck anymore. I just suck my own dick.
That's the move. You're gonna see a nation of fucking kids dying, cracking their own necks, trying to suck their own dicks because like I'm self-celibate
You want to know something insane? How about this? He'll never break his neck sucking his own dick.
because you could do it.
No, I
just limber.
think it's
You're
more
a gymnast.
reasonable
So-
to stand up and try to go down than to lay on my
Throw
back.
back?
and throw
We've
it back.
had this debate
Because your
like
dick
a
kinda
million
goes
times.
in.
Have either of you ever achieved?
No.
Achieved.
I have. I did.
You what?
Years ago, absolutely.
How
of course.
how much did you
I've
get
had a
in?
dick in my mouth, but it's my own. So how did I get there?
Like
Especially
how
as a
much,
heavy
like your
guy.
tip or like the whole like.
I got to about half shaft.
No way!
Yes,
How
yes,
and you did it on your back.
Yes.
All right. Well, I
standing-
finally stand down.
Standing
I
would be
stand down.
impossible because I would have to circumvent the gut. Even
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
I had a
yeah,
bit of a
yeah,
gut.
yeah.
So laying back, throwing the legs over, which is like, oh my God, I hope nobody ever comes in.
Right.
There's
Imagine
the-
that.
There's the bit in Clerks about the guy who broke his neck trying to suck his
Yeah.
own dick.
Yes, yeah.
Because many times when I did it, I was
You
like,
almost-
this would be a horrible, for my mother to find me like,
You're paralyzed.
cum in my mouth. And she's like, it's just like a clue mystery. Like, who did it? And it's like, he was shot with a
him.
nice bullet.
This is actually the plot of Knives Out too.
Oh, fucking Ryan Johnson stole my shit.
Did you come
Yes.
from the blowjob?
Took it all the way. That's how I.
My man.
Yes. I was at Kevin Smith is very adventurous. That's how I got to
Holy
Clerks.
shit.
That's
Congratulations,
how I
dude.
told my brother. My brother is gay as the day as long as he's been married to my brother Jerry for as long as old as Clerks is, so almost 30 years now. And I told my brother one day, I was just like, there's a scene in Chasing Amy where Banky is like asking Alyssa all about like, what about this? What about this?
Yeah.
It was predicated or based on a scene where I confronted my brother, not confronted, like, hey, but my mother told me like one night, she's like, sit down. I came home from Quick Stop. I was like, what's the matter? And she was like, your brother's gay. And I was like, what? I said, that makes perfect sense. Like for half a second, I was like, and then I was like, oh my God,
checks
yes,
out,
it
yeah.
all checks out. So I was like, but why didn't he tell me? Like we didn't have this word back then, but I was like, I was afraid he thought I was homophobic. I was like,
Right.
how could he fucking not tell me? We fucking shared a bedroom for like years and years. So he takes me to film school because he was a traveler and shit. We go to Vancouver. First we go to Seattle where my uncle lives. Then we drive up to Vancouver. where the film school is, Vancouver Film School, my alma mater. And the whole time I'm like, this is the trip. Like, he's going to bring it up because we're alone and fucking blah, blah. And it never comes up. Talk about everything else under the sun except that and shit. So we get across the border. I see the Vancouver skyline in the distance, and finally I go for it. I'm like, so I understand you have an alternative lifestyle. And he was like, that's one way of putting it. I was like, why didn't you tell me, man? He's like, I just never had the moment, man. I was like, did you think I couldn't handle it? You think I'd be mad or fucking upset? He's like, no, not at all. He's like, I know you. He's going, but just never had a moment. He's like, I'm not surprised fucking mom told you. And I was like, yeah, she did. She kind of told me about it. I thought it made absolute sense. He's like, yeah. I was like, I remember this one time I came over, me and Brian Johnson, to pick up something, and you and your buddy were watching a movie on a couch, and you were at opposite ends of the couch. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that's weird. Like, it just seemed very specific and stuff. He goes, yeah, I tried to keep it quiet. I was like, so what was it like? What's it like, man? Tell me. I was like, have you ever done this? Did you ever do a glory hole? He's like, fuck yeah. I was like, did you ever do a swing? He's like, fuck yeah. I was like, oh my God. And my brother, I always thought of as kind of straight-laced and conservative. Sure. But it turns out he's the fucking like most adventurous one in the fucking family. So, I was that night, me asking him all those questions and shit. That was where that scene from Chasing Amy came from. He goes, what about you? Have you ever had any thoughts? And I said, well, I sucked my own dick once. I said, he goes, once? I goes, more than once. Because once you know you can do it, you're like, oh, shit, I don't need anybody else ever again. I'm a self-sustaining entity. But I said, I did it, and I came in my mouth. I said, I came, and I right then and there, I knew I could never be gay. And he goes, why? I was like, because I wouldn't know what to say to somebody afterwards. It was such a weird moment where I was like, so... You want to watch TV? Like, I felt weird enough with myself.
Well, you checked out. You experienced it, and now you know.
Yeah, I was like, I had a trial run, and I figured, like, I'm good. But yeah.
Didn't care for the texture.
Honestly, this is like a bucket list. Check it off. Like, I almost could retire from podcasting. We found one.
How old are you?
I'm 38, almost 38.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
I would say you got a few more years.
Yeah. Try it?
I'm gonna take up yoga.
That's what I'm saying. You get nice and limber and shit like that.
I'm gonna do the Marilyn Manson, remove the 2 ribs, and maybe I can.
Is that what he did?
Well, that was the old urban legend when we were kids.
I mean, it seems like a lot of work. I didn't remove 2 ribs. I just kept practicing.
Kept doing it.
Motherfucker cheated.
All right, brother. That was it's been an absolute pleasure.
Such a pleasure. It's been absolutely fun. I do a lot of podcasts, but they're mine.
Yeah.
And I never really go
on. It's fun to be a guest,
people.
Right?
Well, no. But this was fun to be a guest. Well, it's not always fun to be a guest. This is absolutely enjoyable.
Everybody go watch Clerks 3 and keep doing it.
And when you watch it and you see Silent Bob, just imagine that guy sucked his own dick. He'll change the way you see the movie.
Thank you so much.
Kids, so fucking fun.
I love it.
Make sure you subscribe to KFC Radio on YouTube to get all the video content. Subscribe, comment, like, and make sure you turn on the bell notifications so you know whenever new video content drops.
I want to say something, but the video has to be faster. That's it.